Bar charts helped us visualize categorical data, whether people responded dragons, Bigfoot, or the Loch Ness Monster. Pie charts are another tool for visualizing categorical information. Pie charts are something we're probably familiar with. We see them pretty frequently, whether it's in online polls, news reports, different things. So what we want to do is just sketch out a very rough pie chart to reflect a scenario that we're just going to make up here. So let's say in a survey, 50% of people responded that they live in McLean County in Illinois. About 33.3% of people responded that they live in Illinois, but outside of McLean County. And then about 16.7% of people responded that they live outside of Illinois altogether. If we converted those into fractions, that's 1/2, approximately 1/3, and approximately 1/6. So to make our pie chart, we would split the circle up into those different proportions. So first we would cut it in half, and that would give us the 50%, or would represent the 50% of people who live in McLean County in Illinois. Then from what's left, we've got 33.3%. living outside of McLean County but still in Illinois, and then 16.7% living outside of Illinois. So we take that circle, break it into individual pieces where the size of each piece represents the proportion of the circle, or the proportion of the 100% total. Pie charts are nice because they're very easy to understand. It's a very simple picture, but they also have some drawbacks, one of which is when we get too many categories, pie charts can start to become a little cramped or harder to interpret. We'll look at one case like that here, where we have a sample of students that were asked, which Illinois professional sports team is your favorite? And then the raw responses are provided here. So we would go through and we would tally this up. What we would see is that the Cubs have, or the 5 people responded Cubs, 9 people responded Bears, 2 responded White Sox, 2 responded Blackhawks. Who else were we missing? The Bulls were response 3 times. The Fire were a response 2 times. And both the Sky and the Red Stars were a response 1 time. In order to construct a pie chart, what we have to do is convert each of those to a proportion, which means we have to take the total number of responses, the total number of times each response was given, divided by the total number of responses, which was 25. So we're going to take each value and divide it by 25, which in this case would give us 0.2, 0.36, 0.08, 0.08. 3 divided by 25 would give us 0.12. This would be 0.08 again. And then each time we get one response, that would be a proportion of 0.04 and 0.04. So we're going to have 8 different pieces of our pie that we're going to have to cut and represent. And doing this by hand is extra challenging just because, for me in particular, I'm not really great at drawing, so we typically rely on technology for this, but to demonstrate how we would go about it, we would cut out a piece that represented, to start off, 0.36, And that would represent the proportion of times that people responded bears. We would cut out a portion that represented 0.2 for the cubs. So 20% of the time someone responded cubs. 12% of the time someone responded bulls. And then we have 3 different groups that were 0.08, which represented the White Sox, the Blackhawks, and the Fire. I don't know why I wrote an S. Fire. And then our last group we would split up into 0.04 and 0.04 to represent the Red Stars and the Sky. So in part because I'm not really great at drawing pie charts, but also in part because we have so many categories, when we compare these two results, our first pie chart with only 3 categories, it's really easy to see how big each group is and compare those different sizes. But the more slices of a pie we get, the more confusing or the less clear this chart really becomes. It's very important to have a lot of labeling, because to compare 2 slices of pie, they can look very close, especially if numbers start getting really small. So it's just good to be aware of, 1, how to read a pie chart, but 2, also just aware of the cases where it's maybe not the best method, especially when we do have things like bar charts available, that we can arrange the categories to be from highest frequency to lowest frequency, or some other way to help us make sense of that information we collected.